It's working.
Yep. All right, it's working. And is the screen right? Yep.
It says we're live.
And mics?
Mics are good. Can hear? Yes.
All right. Hi, I'm Chuck
And Deb.
and welcome to Biker Life Radio. We're truly grateful and thankful that you've joined us today. We've got a very unique show lined up just for you.
Biker Life Radio is for those who ride and those who inspire to ride. We are here to reveal the truth behind the motorcycle mystique and bring real life stories of the biker lifestyle.
Yes, we are, and we have a sponsor we should acknowledge today, Deb.
Today's show sponsor is Tony and Guy Hairdressing Academy out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. So if you are ready to put your chins to the wind, knees in the breeze, and seats in the saddle, then hang on and let's get rolling.
And we are getting rolling, and this is going to be a little bit different show than normal, Deb. We're on the road. We're actually broadcasting live right now from outside of Canyon City in Colorado. And it's been one heck of, it's over a week now.
Couple of weeks, I think.
It's been a couple of weeks, so if you've been wondering what happened to Chuck and Deb, we're still here.
We are.
It's just that we've been sort of off the grid, wouldn't you say, Deb? I think that's a good way to put it.
That's a great way to put it. And I think we're rolling in a couple of different ways these days, too. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and talk about it. So where do we get started is the question. Over how long? I have no idea what's going on with the days, where we are, or anything like that. Today is Friday.
Today is Friday, and I think 2 weeks.
A week ago Friday, I was on the road on the way to Colorado.
Yes.
I left that Tuesday, right?
Yes.
So it's been how many days then? So it's been Tuesday, 7 days.
Yes. Well,
It's been 7, 8, 9, what?
Correct. Yeah. It's
Correct.
probably.
We can't do math. Is that what the problem? I'm throwing it at
Yes.
you. We got to be able to do the math.
Well,
So it was 7 days on Tuesday, this last Tuesday.
Yes, that's
and so
correct.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so 10 days.
Yes, it's been 10
It's been
days.
10 days.
Yes, that's true.
10 days since we've been on the road, and a lot of things have happened
been a
since I
journey.
left last Tuesday, and we've just been extremely busy with all sorts of things, which we're going to try to fill you in on as we get moving here on the show tonight. But we want to thank everybody for joining us. It's been quite an adventure, quite honestly.
It's been an adventure is a great way to put it.
We've got even more of an adventure heading our way, I do believe.
Yes.
We've experiencing something really for the first time for Deb and I tonight. We're actually, as I mentioned before, we're just outside of Canyon City in Colorado. And that's near the Royal Gorge, which we'll probably go to tomorrow. But it's our first night in a campground.
RV park, yeah.
In an RV park.
Yeah.
And the only disappointing thing about this, and I'll give you, I guess, an inside view prior to getting started. The only disappointing thing about this is there's no motorcycle to show you today. And I'll cover that as we get going.
Yeah, that is the
Now,
disappointment.
Deb, I don't want to be the one that sits here and talks the whole time, so you've got to say something, okay?
I will say something because this is an adventure. We have not done the RV lifestyle, but we are excited to make that part of our future. And as you can see, our home on wheels is behind us. And, you know, we had master grand plans of doing motorcycling first. You actually hit the road on Thumper. You're beautiful Harley Davidson, and it didn't end up quite the way we had envisioned.
And we'll go over that, yeah.
And we'll talk all about that. But
that's a great story all in and of itself, believe me, so stick around. You're going to want to hear that story.
Yes, absolutely. But, you know, it's you have to take life, and this has kind of been a life lesson in many ways, is that I believe that you have to be adaptable and flexible and, you know, willing to just go through the experience and be okay with that. And that's what we've had to do this time.
We've been okay with it.
We've been
tough
okay with
in
it.
some ways.
And, you know, the difficulty is I think that I'm a mega planner. I'm a master planner. And you are the fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy. And so I really worked hard to just let the trip happen the way however that was meant to be.
Yeah. And And here's the deal, Deb. The sun's going down, so we're probably going to lose our light. It took us so
Yeah.
long to get hooked up and everything set up as far as the audio that Deb set up, that Deb took on the plane. And I guess we should get started there. But Deb boxed up everything on the plane that we needed for our podcast and for our YouTube page and Facebook and all that good stuff. So Deb carried that on the plane, and she left on Wednesday.
Okay,
So I left
let's-
last Tuesday.
Right, by motorcycle, and
Yep.
I left on Wednesday via airplane.
That's right.
And again, our goal was to get to the same
To unite.
destination. Yeah, several days later.
4 days
four
later.
days later.
4 days later was the plan.
That's right. The plan, the master plan of all the plans. And so talk a little bit about your trip and things that you experienced and kind of what's led us to.
Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Dan. Dan's V-Twin and Dan, I love you. You're great. You're fantastic. Dan was there really for me throughout the entire trip. And from day one, I was running into problems.
Yes, from the beginning you left, minute you left.
Yeah. Well, not actually the minute. Why do you say the minute?
Well, it was the first 100 miles into
It
your
was
trip.
the first gas up, okay?
Okay.
And I decided to check the oil and do all that good thing because I really loaded down my bike. I really did. I tried to take every precaution necessary for any event on the road, but there was one I didn't do. So you want to stick around to learn that one thing so that you make sure that you do it. And actually, I've learned a whole heck of a lot on this ride here. So, yeah, I left out, and my first time I gassed up, I checked the oil, and I was burning oil. I was running really low on oil. So I called Deb, and so we said, let's give Dan a call and see what Dan says. And Dan was sort of, we were not sure. Let's go another 100 miles and see how that works out. So we went another 100 miles, and that was the other thing. My gas mileage, I usually get at least 120 miles before I flip over to reserve. I was flipping over to reserve right around 100. In this case, I flipped over to reserve right at 90 the first time I pulled over.
That's a big change.
It was a huge change, and which plagued me in the entire trip, by the way. But Dan said, let's go ahead and let's check it out the next time. So go for it. And I was like fired up. I mean, I'm enjoying the ride, everything. I'm so into it. And I just want to keep moving. And Deb says, let's do it. So we decided we're going to go ahead and keep moving forward. So it appeared that things were better on the second try. So I decided to keep moving, keep going. And I ended up in Tallahassee, stopped there. And I had to get off on a side road to get some gas, and I noticed my clutch, it felt like it was slipping. And so I decided to go to the Harley-Davidson there and actually have them check out my clutch. I want to give some kudos there because at first when they told me it was kind of like it was only going to be a $20 bill, that, just for them to check it out, make any adjustment like that, it actually ended up $80. But I got to remember the gentleman's name. I think it was, oh, man, I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Justin, maybe? Justin. I know. I'm pounding on the table to try to remember. But he actually lowered the bill down to about $60. He was really kind. And then, there was a very unique mechanic that came out, and his name was Billy. All right, I remember his name was Billy. He worked on my bike, and apparently Billy had been there for like 20-something years. Somebody was telling me while I was waiting in the lobby, which I met a neat woman, which we'll try to get her on the show later as well. But Billy was really unique, and he made a very big impression on me. I'm not sure why. It was sort of like he was sort of enamored. Is that the right word?
Enamored?
With what was going on with me. And he did say that he lubed up on bike and everything. So anyway, I'll pass that story. I stayed the night in Pensacola, made it there. And man, I was burnt. I was burned out. It was a long day, a lot of heat, and I was having to stop, like I said, every 100 miles to make sure that I didn't run out of gas. So the next day was a little bit different. I had to change plans. I had plans to go up to the Natchez Trace, and because of the time, I got started late again. I was late, getting into Pensacola. It was real late that night. And so I decided I'm just going to take the fastest route, and I ended up going through Alabama and then up through Mississippi, and then all the way through Louisiana, which I did complain that the Louisiana roads were so terrible that they banged up and dented my rims and tires. I don't know if they did it or not yet, but it sure did feel like it. I hit one bump that was so bad that it actually knocked one of my saddlebags came loose. and the zipper on the saddlebag stretched and it just came apart. And so I had to do some. And what I did is threw the saddlebag on top of my other bag and netted it down until I got to the hotel I was going to be at. And then that night, or the next morning, actually, I can't remember the next. I think it was the next morning. Yes, I used zip ties. Zip ties are very important. At least they were for me. Maybe you want to carry some zip ties with you on your bike trails. So the roads there were really bad. I don't know. They were just horrible. But overall, the trip was good. It was a lot of heat. So that was I made it to Bossier. Bossier, is that right? Bossier or Shreveport?
Yeah, Bossier. Mm-hmm.
And it was a nice. Actually, it was a casino that I stopped at. I said I was going to give myself a treat. And I didn't even go into the casino at all. The room was real nice. It was very cheap. It was $59. I couldn't believe it.
What a deal.
It was a real good deal.
It was a great deal. And you said the room was beautiful.
Yep.
You sent me, we did video.
It was, yeah.
It was nice, huge.
It was beautiful. We got to go back by there because that was pretty neat. I'd like to be able to experience it, but I was too beat. I was beat basically the whole trip from the heat, a lot of heat the whole way. And I just thought, before the trip, I was just thinking, oh, man, we've done this before, and we've done it with groups, and it's a lot easier with groups for some reason. I just don't know why. I think it's the support that you have along the way, and I did love every bit of it. The heat got to me. I didn't know as I was going along I was dehydrating, even though I was drinking. Deb gave me her little coaching patch, so I had a bottle of water that I kept on my side as I ran up the road, and I had plenty of Gatorades. That was part of the reason my bike was weighed down so
heavy,
much.
right?
And that might have led up to the coming situation. So I left out of Shreveport, and I didn't have my directions, so my bad. I had saved these directions. I'd sent them to me from Google, and I spent a whole day doing that.
Spent a long time.
I spent a whole day on these directions. I sent them to myself on Google, but I couldn't find them. And all I had to do is, and I had them broken down in the legs that I was going to go in, and I couldn't find it. So basically, I said to my phone, here's where I want to go, and I think it was Texarkana, which is where I was heading. And I got on the strangest road. First of all, what was noticed, I was going, the speed limit was 75 miles an hour. And then here I am. Remember, I've got to be paying attention to gas because every 100 miles, I've got to make sure I get gas. And I'm on this road, but it's not the interstate. It's a highway, but it's 75 miles an hour. And there's no gas stations along these exits. I had to pull over on one exit because I was getting so close and asked my phone to send me to the nearest gas station, which I did make to. And then it was sort of got mixed up where I was, and then I finally got there, got to Texarkana, and even on this trip, I had a scenic route planned. I wanted to do the Talamina ride. I was going to do there that Neil told us about that we didn't get to make this year. I wanted to do that Mountain View ride, and I was so beat when I got to Texarkana, and there was a lot of traffic, and I wasn't sure my phone was taking me in the right direction. So finally, I said fastest route to Amarillo, Texas, because that was my next stop. Okay, that was my next where I had to make it that night to Amarillo. And so it took me down. Was it 85, Deb, or 82 or 87?
82 or 87.
87, and again, for the first of all, I went down this major interstate, and it looked like it was going to be going through Dallas. I was like, I don't want to go through Dallas.
Probably 40, I think.
Yeah, it was 40.
Yeah,
I think it was 40.
I think it was 40.
And then it took me off onto that. I think it was 87. And there was, again, no gas station, so I had this panic. Like the whole time I had to keep watching what was going on, and I would talk to people on the side of the road, and they would reassure me that there were some gas stations up there. Well, I finally made it to a place called Sherman. And at this point, I'm looking at it, and there's just no way I'm going to make it to Amarillo. I think I called you, right? And I think it was like 4 hours left. It was 4 or 5 hours left to Amarillo.
It was late in the day,
and there was no one was going to make it.
Yeah, wasn't going to happen.
So I decided to get something to eat at a great Mexican restaurant that I stopped at. It was great food. They messed up my order, but it actually worked out real good.
I loved it.
Yeah, and I ended up staying at a hotel at Best Western. That was a good stay there. And the next morning I headed out.
Yes.
And I went back on that road. I think it was 87, and it changed a little bit. It actually, from that point forward, it was like there were 4 lanes versus the 2 that I were on, and there were more stops, so I didn't have to worry so much about gas. And actually, Deb was kind enough to help me plan it out. I think the night before where I was going to stop for gas
Right.
to make sure that I didn't run out, because it was every 100 miles, and that was when I had to put it on a reserve, and I just didn't know where I was going or what was ahead of me. And it actually worked out pretty good. I didn't have to make all the stops. I actually made it a little bit further. So outside of Wichita Falls, I passed the Harley Davidson. I said to myself, maybe I should have stopped there, but there was no signs in advance as I was going up that same road. I think it was 87, right?
87. Mm-hmm.
And also one of the things that was pretty cool is they got those big windmills out there in the fields.
Yes.
And I actually happened to pass one of them. They had one of the what would you call it, the fan? I don't know.
Yeah,
one of the windmill
blades,
arms,
one of the blades. Yeah.
This thing had to be like 50 foot long, and I passed it on my motorcycle, and that was right after I passed that Wichita Harley Davidson site. So my bike was sounding a little bit weird. I heard the lifters, which is not unusual with my bike, especially I usually run. I during the summer I run standard oil through it. And sometimes I'll run that synthetic through, and I hear the lifters a little bit more. But as I was going, I started to notice, and I was pushing Thumper a little bit. Thumper likes to go fast, all right? Thumper likes to do good. So I was hitting 75, 80, and Thumper was liking it. Thumper didn't like it when we went through the small towns, and that's my bike. If you haven't figured it out, that's what I call my bike, Dyna Wide Glide. And Thumper just did not like slowing down. But I knew I had to take it easy on Thumper. It was like, I don't know what it was out there at the time. It was hot.
100.
Well, I
think it was
found
right
out
around
that it was 100, right? And so outside of a town called Childress, as I was picking up speed leaving town, all of a sudden I hear this whiz. I hear a whiz. And it was like I wasn't going anywhere. Almost like a belt broke. And I immediately shut off the engine, which I had been planning for. If that ever happened, I was going to shut down the engine immediately, which I did. So I was a few miles outside of this town called Childress, and apparently I was out there. I got off the phone. I called Deb, let her know right away what was going on. I called AAA and let them know that, the matter of fact, when I got on the phone, I said, I have an emergency situation. I'm out in the middle of the desert, which I was, and I might be experiencing dehydration here shortly. And, so what is that?
Heat stroke.
Heat stroke, too, something
is
like
next.
that out there.
Yeah.
Because I had to let them know, because I've been riding all day and I was hot. And even though I was hydrating, it really apparently it wasn't enough to come to find out a little bit later. So it took some time, because there was a tow truck. They said it was 90 minutes out. And there was no shade. Now, here was my bad. One of the things that I didn't prepare for that I told you earlier is I had this vision in my head. I don't know what they call them. I call them like they're heat blankets that for emergency situations. They're little square things. They're a little small. And I thought, well, if I carried one of those, they have a reflective side on it, and I could put this over the top of me, because there was no trees. There was no cover whatsoever out there.
Wide open.
And I couldn't. I mean, I tried to sit behind the bike where there's a little bit of shadow.
A little bit of shadow shade. Yeah, whatever.
So I'm there waiting for this to happen, and the whole time. And what was sort of interesting, and we've got a picture of this, is I said, "Oh, good," sort of to myself as the bike broke down. I saw this hill, this house, a couple of houses on the hill, and I saw like this driveway, this gate that was there, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll pull, this is great. I'll just pull right here alongside the road, and I'll go up the house. Well, the road to the house was all weeds.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even tell if the house was occupied or not.
Right.
So I didn't end up going up there to, see if anybody could help me or not. So after this time, somebody showed up. It's like this person just appeared. And it was the best thing that ever happened. Jason appeared. And Jason came out, and it seemed like to me seemingly nowhere. I think I said, I don't know, we're going to get him on the show. But it was like, oh, hey, how you doing? Well, thanks for stopping. I said, and he went on to help, went on to help me. And he said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, I've got somebody coming for a tow." And I said, "I do have, this is what I brought with me, believe it or not. I brought some tow straps." I said, "I've got these tow straps." I said, "We could wrap them around here if you want to pull me down the road to someplace."
You didn't tell me that. You told him that.
Yeah. And he's like, that has never worked out too good for me in the past. I really would rather not do that. I said, "Okay." I said, and so then he says, "I'm about 30 miles up the road. My dad has a trailer." He calls him Pops. He goes, "My Pops has a trailer." He says, I'll call him and see if he'll come down, put it on the trailer. You can come stay at our house, and, we got a mechanic down the road. You can leave it with him or leave the bike in my garage." And I'm freaking out because as Deb mows, I'm not used to taking help. I'm not used to. I don't ask people for a lot of help. I don't ask people for a lot of things. I like to try to take care of things myself. And I said to the guy, I said, and I think I remember talking to you, right, Deb? Didn't I say something to you about it?
You just weren't sure what to think, and I think he probably was thinking the same thing.
Well, no. I said to you, he's invited me to go to his house, and Deb, I really don't like that. I don't want to, it's strange to me. And so what I did is I ended up telling Jason. I said, "Jason, this is really tough for me." I said, "I'm going to go ahead and do it." I said, "I'm not used to doing this, but okay, And so anyway, what ended up happening is he started noticing some things that were going on with me. Him and his wife, which by the way, her name is, I would say it was Karen, but it was Deb.
Caron.
And so they had just got back from shopping in that town, Childress. And so he had to clear out his back seat in his pickup so that I could get in there and put it in the back of his pickup truck. And about that time, as he cleaned that out, he had a plan. He had a plan. He saw what was going on with me. He told me a little bit later, and he'll tell you on the show. But he had a plan that, he was already doing all that stuff while I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. And
right.
I'm sort of freaking out there, making sure I've got this and that, my helmet and all that. So I get in the truck, and, we're about ready to head out. All of a sudden, the AAA guy shows up. So, I said, "Hey, Jason, don't have your dad come. You might want to check with your dad." So Jason called his dad. His dad had the trailer all hooked up, but he hadn't left yet. I said, "Well, this guy's here. No, you need to have your dad, go out of his way to, waste an hour, to come get me." So basically, they got my bike up on the tow truck, and what we did is we took it to Jason's house. And that's where the really neat story kicked in because, this is a stranger. It's during the coronavirus. It's during all these strange times and things that are going on. And these kind people invite me into their home to stay in their home. And they invite me to bring my bike to their home. And that's where the thumper was unloaded. And I told Deb about it. And Deb decided we were talking on the side of the road at that time about you wanted me to rent a car. And I'm sort of chuckling. There's no car rentals here.
So I'm looking, and there are no car rentals there. That's for sure.
They're just small towns, man. There's nothing there.
And we were trying to figure out what to do. We talked about having Thumper towed to the Harley dealer in Amarillo, which was the closest location that we could do that rather than going backward. We talked about a whole lot of different options and solutions, and once Jason showed up, it just made good sense. It just changed plans a little bit, and we had time to make a good, solid decision rather than something so sporadic, so spontaneous, so quick to make maybe the wrong choice. I had even made a call to the Best Western to see if somebody would come get me, because that's what the AAA lady told me. She said, "Call Best Western, see if they'll come get you." Because the tow trucks with COVID were very clear that they may not even be able to take you inside the vehicle with them because of what's going on with the coronavirus. So we had no idea or even thought that could be a possibility. I'm like, really? You're stranded on the side of the road and they're going to take your motorcycle, but not you. And absolutely, that's the case. Yeah. So thank goodness for Jason and his wife that came by, and I stayed with them, and Deb actually rented a car. You got up what time that next morning? That was the next day in the morning, right? So that evening we kind of, on my side of it, which I was already in Colorado at the time, and so the best was 460 miles away. 460 miles away. I almost made it. So 460 miles.
Oh,
Right.
man, that hurts me.
Yeah. So the best thing I said, and this was 4th of July. The next day was 4th of July holiday. So I decided, well, let me
Yeah.
rent a vehicle, a car, to make it fastest, easiest way to get there. I could get up in the morning. We could do a turn and burn and get back for 4th of July and have an okay,
Yeah, see the
exhaustive.
fireworks. That
but
was
see
your
the
plan.
That's right. See
You
the
were like,
fireworks.
we can see the fireworks.
The city was doing a really big thing and going to post it so that everyone around the city could see the fireworks. And that was kind of my thing. I was, at least let's experience the 4th of July the best that we can. So I get down to where you are located, which is in Memphis, Texas.
Memphis, Texas, not Tennessee,
And
Texas.
Texas. And, we start talking, and I get there, and actually you have Thumper opened up, trying to do your own determination and investigation of what could have possibly gone wrong.
Correct.
And very clearly, the minute the covers were off, you saw
That was
the
a
evidence.
camshaft bearing. So let me just back up a second, because I got to spend the 4th of July with Jason and his family. I got to meet Pops and Mom, and it was just a really neat time. These were just such great people, and I was sort of so out of it that all I did was just take it easy and take in this small town atmosphere. That there's a small town of about 2,000 people. And for me, it was just a really great experience, even though it was really difficult for me to accept that. I had my own room, and we shared a bathroom. It was they had a nice place, and it was just really neat. Pops would bring over in the morning, or when he came by, he'd always bring some Sonic drinks. And just a great guy. And so I had the 4th of July a meal with them, and it was just really neat. It was a fantastic experience, and they were just great people to treat me the way they did and took care of me the way they did. And it was just a true blessing that I will never forget. And my bike is still there. So, Deb, you can tell the rest of the story. So
well, and I think
we left off there.
the blessing is that I got there that 4th of July morning at about 11:30. I don't know what time it was. I actually was up on the road just around 4:30 that morning in order for us to get that turn and burn in and still get back to where we needed to be, where our schedule was. And I got down there and realized that maybe I didn't need to do that. And so Jason and Corone were gracious enough to, be open to me staying the night too, so that we could kind of again get a plan of action in place. So we ended up staying. Our 4th of July was in Memphis, Texas. They were so gracious. They were wonderful hosts. Mom and Pops helped make that 4th of July dinner. And Jason and Corone did some fabulous steaks on the grill.
Yep.
And then they were having
Very good.
a great firework display in their hometown too, at their stadium. And so we were able to, get fairly close and watch the fireworks, and it ended up being a phenomenal 4th of July that
really
we will
was.
probably talk about forever. So, that was a blessing. And then the next day we got up and started again thinking about it. We couldn't necessarily talk to anyone because of the holiday. We couldn't find out.
We couldn't do anything.
We couldn't find out
So we
estimates. We couldn't get ideas of pricing and things
4th
like
of July
that.
we
So the
couldn't.
4th of July, we were just kind of stuck. And it was, I'm grateful that we stuck around in order to, kind of do our brainstorming together to find some solutions.
Because one thing we have to sort of back up, because one of the things that we were talking about is when Jason was there, he noticed that I wasn't sweating anymore. And apparently that's moving into some serious heat stroke issues. And that's when he was cleaning out the back of his pickup, wanted to get me in there, wanted to get me taken care of. So apparently I was really, he quite possibly could have saved my life, folks, the way I see it. It's very possible that if he wouldn't have stopped, who knows what would have happened. I mean, I'm not in that great a shape, and I haven't ridden this far in so long, and I've been doing it for days in the sun. So the reason I'm saying this is I was really dehydrated. I was really not all there.
Right.
And I wasn't all there, Deb, for a couple of days. I mean, I thought I was there. I mean, I really think I was, thought I was there.
Right. But when I got there, you even said you were just not quite feeling yourself. And I said, it's the dehydration. So you needed to continue and
Yeah, you made me drink a whole bunch of stuff.
get the more fluids in than you would expect, just to kind of level out those balances, because you were still in.
And here's the thing, I wasn't urinating
right
at all.
That's the trouble.
And when I did, there was nothing. So that's when
That was a
there was a
sign.
telltale sign.
Right.
That things weren't really going too well, and that happened for almost 2 days.
Yes,
right? I think so.
So you were possibly in really bad shape.
It was not a good situation, but so it took till that third day after the 4th of July to where my brain was starting to come back, and I'm like, Deb, there's something I'm missing, something I'm not thinking of. And again, I did check with Dan, and Dan had a busy weekend with his family and stuff like that, and he knew what was going on. But Dan checked with me, after we got back, and he stayed in touch, which was a great thing, and I really appreciate him. It was really a vote of confidence to know that it was Dan. Dan with Dan V Twin was there helping me out along the way and helping me make some good decisions, I think.
And I think that the important part of that is that we had communicated that trip to Dan earlier,
Yep.
so Dan knew. When we were going through the review of the motorcycle, making sure it was in its best condition for the trip, he knew what you had going on, and kind of knew the adventure that you were undertaking. And so again, kudos to him, not only for being an amazing
Yep.
friend and a support, but also being there from a mechanic and a professional
Absolutely.
standpoint to know that when stuff goes wrong, we've got someone there in our corner
Yeah.
that we can call, and he's been amazing.
It's just a great feeling to know that somebody's there to talk to share things with. And of course, I shared pictures of my cam bearing, and he said, "Yep, that looks like what it is." So anyway, we ended up doing that next day when I got my head a little bit straightened on, we ended up calling actually a Harley dealer that would be open. I think it was a Sunday, right, Deb?
Yeah, it was Sunday, and it was a couple of our local.
Get an idea what we're looking at, because I was thinking, a cam bearing, it'll be nothing.
I'll just put the bearing in, and we'll be
that's
on the
not.
road.
This is a major issue. We got to make sure that there's no metal from the bearings inside the engine and things like that. So it might mean a whole cam replacement and all sorts of things.
Yeah,
so,
who knows? So once you open it up, you don't know.
So my bike, as we have this show right now, is still sitting in Memphis, Texas.
Yep.
My poor Thumper sitting in the garage, but he is in good company. He's okay. But we will see him soon. We're going to be doing some traveling around out west. And Deb, maybe you can take over here, because what we did is Deb drove us back. It was that Sunday when we finally said, okay, look, this is going to be a little bit more, because my thought was, if it's just a few $100, I can have my bike and I could get it fixed, and we can get it up here, and I could be riding, and we'll trailer it wherever we're going to go, because we got this RV here, and we'll just trailer it wherever we're going to go. And so I was trying. I guess it was an optimistic thing, which was probably unusual for me, Deb.
It is, yes. So I'm very impressed that you even went that optimistic
route. But I wanted to be optimistic. It was like the first day. I didn't want to give it up,
Right.
And so I didn't want to give up the ride. I didn't want to give up my bike. I want my bike. I want my bike now, actually. So Deb drove us back that day.
Yep.
And
so we got back Sunday.
And it's been helter-skelter ever since.
It has been a little bit of insanity and craziness. But you know what? It's been good time. It's been good time with people that we love, and having some really quality time to
Seeing
spend
some
with them.
places we've lived, and
that's right.
our
We
family's
went back
been,
to
and
places
things like that.
and
Photos
reminisced.
taken. Yep.
Yeah. Today,
That was
even
a good
today, today was a special one
and
because
a lot of
that
people
was,
saw that, so that was cool.
Yep. So we went back to the location for our
Very first date. Yep.
and so that was pretty amazing.